The gun is cold against Minho's temple. It's 2:47 a.m. in a diner that smells like burnt coffee and desperation, and the masked man's hand is shaking so badly the barrel keeps slipping against Minho's skin. The other customers, a drunk businessman, 2 college students cramming for exams, and a man in an expensive suit tucked into the corner booth, have gone statue still. "Open it," the robber rasps, gesturing wildly at the register with his free hand. "Open it now or I." "The register's open," Minho says, voice steady as a flatline. No tremor. No tears. Just that same calm he's perfected over 5 years of making himself invisible, unremarkable, safe. Take what you need. The simplicity of it, the complete absence of panic, seems to confuse the gunman more than resistance would have. He grabs the cash with fumbling fingers, stuffs it into his jacket, and runs. The door chimes as he disappears into the soul night. Everyone exhales. Except the man in the corner booth. He hasn't moved. Hasn't breathed. His pupils are blown wide, and his fingers have gone white-knuckled around the coffee cup that's been cold for an hour. Because beneath the fluorescent lights and the suppressant patches Minho wears religiously, beneath 5 years of distance and carefully constructed anonymity, he knows that voice. More than that, he knows that scent. Faint, muted, clinging to the edges of his alpha senses like a ghost. Rain-soaked asphalt. Antiseptic. The metallic tang of blood that shouldn't be there but is, buried in the memory. Kang Tae-jun's hands start to shake. Minho's life exists in the narrow hours between midnight and dawn, in a 24-hour diner in Itaewon where the neon sign flickers and half the light bulbs are burned out. It's the kind of place where nobody asks questions, where fake IDs and cash-only transactions are the currency of survival, where an Omega can work a double shift without anyone noticing the suppressant patches beneath his collar. He's been here for 3 years. Long enough that the regulars know his order preference, black coffee, no sugar. Short enough that nobody knows his real story. He keeps his head down, his scent locked tight, his voice carefully neutral. The world is full of alphas who think an Omega's calm is an invitation, who mistake composure for submission. Minho learned a long time ago that the trick to staying safe is staying unnoticed. But the robbery changes that. It happens fast. One moment he's wiping down tables. The next there's a gun and a demand and the awful, electric silence of violence about to happen. Minho's hindbrain screams Omega, vulnerable, submit, but his mouth opens and that voice comes out. The one he used 5 years ago in an alley that smelled like rain and dying alpha, when he'd pressed his jacket against a stranger's bullet wound and talked him through the sirens arriving. The register's open. Take what you need. Across the room, Kang Tae-jun, who came to this diner at 2 a.m. because he saw a viral video 3 hours ago, who sat in the corner booth waiting to confirm what his instincts were screaming, freezes. Because it's not just the voice. It's the way Minho's fingers don't shake when he opens the register. The way his pulse stays steady when the gun presses against his temple, visible in the delicate column of his throat. The way his scent, barely there, choked under suppressants, but unmistakable to an alpha who has spent 5 years searching for the Omega who saved his life. Whispers of that rainy night. The night Tae-jun was 24 and bleeding out behind a dumpster after a failed hit, when his lieutenants had left him for dead and his alpha was howling for him to fight, survive, kill. An Omega in a stained work uniform had found him, and instead of running, had stayed. Had pressed cloth to the wound and said, "You're going to be fine. Help is coming. Just keep breathing. That's it. You're doing good." That voice. Steady. Certain. Unshakable. Tae-jun never got his name. He searched for years. Every hospital record, every witness statement, every CCTV camera in a 3-block radius. Nothing. The Omega had vanished like smoke. Until tonight. Until a robbery went viral and 2.4 million people watched an Omega waitress stare down a gun without flinching. Tae-jun saw the video on his phone at 11:30 p.m. and felt his entire world tilt sideways. Now he sits in a diner at 2:47 a.m., watching Minho move through the aftermath. Reassuring the college students, giving statements to the police who arrive 15 minutes too late, wiping down the counter with hands that still don't shake. And Tae-jun realizes with a certainty that settles in his bones like inevitability. He's found him. The Omega who saved his life has been hiding in plain sight for 5 years, wearing suppressants and anonymity like armor, trying so hard to be invisible that the world almost believed it. But Kang Tae-jun is very good at finding things that don't want to be found. And he always pays his debts. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers and tell me where you're watching from. Minho doesn't see the video until it's already too late. He gets home at 6:47 a.m., bones aching from the double shift, and finds Hannah camped out on their threadbare couch with her laptop balanced on her knees and her eyes too wide, too bright. She's supposed to be asleep. She has physical therapy at 9, and the sessions drain her, leave her gray-faced and trembling for hours afterward. Instead, she's staring at her screen like it's showing her the end of the world. "Appa," she says, and her voice cracks on the word. "Appa, you need to see this." Minho's hindbrain flares with alarm before his conscious mind catches up. He crosses the tiny apartment in 3 steps, suppressant patches itching under his collar, and looks over her shoulder. It's him. The video is playing on loop, shaky phone camera footage from one of the college students, probably because the angle is low and off-center. But the image is unmistakable. Minho with a gun pressed to his temple, fingers steady on the register, voice cutting through the chaos with that terrible, practiced calm. The register's open. Take what you need. The view count sits in the corner like an accusation. 2.4 million. "Hannah," Minho says carefully, throat closing around the word. "When did this?" "It's been up for 6 hours. She scrolls down, and the comments section unfolds like a wound. Someone posted it on Twitter around midnight. Then it got picked up by one of those viral accounts, and then another, and Appa, everyone's seen this. Minho's fingers find the edge of the couch. He grips it hard enough that his knuckles go white, hard enough that the pain grounds him when his omega instincts start screaming exposed, vulnerable, run. The comments scroll past in a blur. Ice in her veins. How is she so calm? Waitress of steel. I would have been sobbing. Who is she? Does anyone know her name? That voice, though. So soothing. She talked him down like a therapist. 2:47 a.m. in Itaewon. Anyone recognize the diner? Minho stops breathing. They're trying to figure out where you work, Hannah says, voice small. Some of them have already guessed. There's only 3 24-hour diners in that part of Itaewon, and someone posted photos comparing the window reflections. Appa, they're going to find you. I know, Minho says, but the words come out mechanical, distant. Like someone else is piloting his body while his brain tries to process the magnitude of what's happening. 5 years. He's spent 5 years building this life, carefully, painstakingly, one anonymous shift at a time. No social media. No photographs. No trail for Sung-ho or any other alpha to follow back to him. He's been a ghost in his own life, invisible by design, and it's kept him safe. Now 2 million people know his face. Hannah's fingers hover over the trackpad. There's more, she says quietly. They're calling you a hero. Some of them want to interview you. There's a journalist from Hankiori who's asking people to help identify you. And, Appa, one of the comments says someone recognized you from a different video. From 5 years ago. Minho's blood turns to ice. What? I don't know what it means. Hannah clicks on a nested thread, and a username appears at truthseeker_soul. This person says they remember another viral video from 2021, an ambulance scene in Gangnam. They say there was someone who looked like you giving first aid to a stabbing victim. They're asking if it's the same person. The alley. The rain. Taejun's blood soaking through Minho's jacket while he applied pressure and lied through his teeth that everything would be fine. Minho's suppressants itch. His scent glands pulse beneath the adhesive, trying to release the bitter spike of fear that his hindbrain keeps generating. He breathes through his mouth, counts to 7, forces his voice to stay level. Hannah, I need you to close the laptop. But, close it, please. She does slowly, reluctance written in every movement. The apartment goes quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of morning traffic through the walls. Hannah looks up at him with those 2 old eyes, the ones she got after their parents died, and Minho became the only thing standing between her and the foster system. You're scared, she says. Not a question. Minho sits down beside her, careful not to let their shoulders touch. Physical contact makes the omega instincts worse, makes him want to curl around her and scent mark, and do all the things that would make them both targets. I'm careful, he corrects. There's a difference. Is this about Sung-ho? The name lands between them like a grenade. Minho hasn't spoken about Sung-ho in 3 years. Hasn't let himself think the name. Hasn't acknowledged the shape of that particular nightmare. But Hannah was 12 when Minho finally got them both out, when he'd packed their lives into 2 duffel bags and run in the middle of the night. She remembers. She knows. Partially, Minho admits, because lying to Hannah has never worked and he's too tired to try. But it's not just him. It's, Hannah, you know what happens when omegas get attention. Especially omegas who don't have packs, who aren't bonded. The wrong kind of alpha sees this video, decides I'm a challenge, Hannah finishes, voice bitter. Yeah, I know. Minho's phone buzzes in his pocket. Once. Twice. 7 times in rapid succession. He doesn't need to check it to know what's happening. His co-workers, the ones who are documented enough to have his number, are seeing the video. Mr. Cho is seeing the video. Every alpha in a 50-kilometer radius who thinks an unbonded omega is fair game is seeing the video. The walls are closing in. Hannah reaches over and takes his hand. Her fingers are small and cold and scarred from all the IVs, all the surgeries, all the ways her body has tried to fail her while Minho fought to keep her alive. What are you going to do? She asks. Minho looks at their joined hands and thinks about the rent notice tucked in the kitchen drawer. The one that says they have 14 days before eviction. The medical bills stacked on the counter like a tower of impossible choices. The suppressant prescription that's running low and costs 80,000 Korean wons to refill. He thinks about invisibility, and how it was the only currency that mattered, and how he just lost it in 6 hours of algorithm-driven virality. I don't know, he says, and it's the most honest thing he's said in years. His phone buzzes again. This time, it doesn't stop. Outside, Seoul is waking up. Inside, Minho sits in the apartment that's supposed to be a haven and feels exposure creeping across his skin like frostbite. Somewhere in the city, 2 million people have seen his face. Somewhere in the comments section, someone is still trying to figure out his name. And somewhere, Minho knows this with a certainty that makes his suppressants burn. Someone is already on their way to find him. 5 years earlier, the alley smells like rain and rotting garbage. And Minho is 19 years old and so broke that he's been rationing instant noodles for 3 days. It's 4:17 a.m., and he's taking the shortcut through the Gangnam back streets because the subway doesn't run this late, and he can't afford a taxi and his feet are screaming from 8 hours of standing. His backpack digs into his shoulders. Textbooks he can't afford to replace. A uniform that needs washing. The last 3,000 Korean wons in his wallet that has to last until Friday. He's thinking about Hannah's school fees. About the landlord who keeps calling. About the statistics exam he has in 6 hours that he hasn't studied for, because sleeping is a luxury and studying is a dream and surviving is all he has energy for. He's not thinking about the man slumped against the dumpster until he's almost past him. The smell hits first. Copper thick and wet, cutting through the garbage stench and the rain-slick concrete. Then the visual registers. Expensive suit, black and tailored, soaked through. Designer shoes. And blood. So much blood pooling on the asphalt that Minho's hindbrain shorts out for a full 3 seconds. The man's head is tilted back against the metal dumpster, throat exposed, and even through the rain and the blood and the distance, Minho can smell what he is. Alpha. Every omega instinct Minho has screams run. This alpha smells like gunpowder and violence and something darker, something that makes Minho's suppressants burn against his skin. Even dying. And he is dying. Minho can see the wet shine of exposed muscle through the torn shirt, the way his breathing is shallow and wrong. This alpha radiates danger like heat off asphalt. Minho's feet stop moving. He should keep walking. Should pull out his phone and call emergency services from 2 blocks away where it's safe, where an alpha can't grab him and claim him and destroy what's left of his carefully rationed life. He's 19 and broke and responsible for a 12-year-old sister, and getting involved with a dying alpha in a Gangnam back alley is the kind of decision that ruins people. The man's eyes crack open. They're dark, unfocused, struggling to track. His lips move soundlessly. Minho watches his own hand pull his phone from his pocket. Watches his feet carry him closer. Close enough that the blood smell makes his stomach clench. Close enough that he can see the man's pupils are blown wide with shock. Hey, Minho says, and his voice comes out steadier than it has any right to. Stay with me. Can you hear me? The alpha's gaze finally finds him. Something flickers in those dark eyes, confusion, maybe, or surprise that an omega is standing here instead of running. His lips shape a word that might be go, or might be no, or might be nothing at all. Minho is already dialing emergency services. Already shrugging off his jacket. The only jacket he owns, the one he bought secondhand 3 months ago. The operator picks up on the second ring. I need an ambulance. Gangnam-gu, the alley behind. Minho rattles off the cross streets, keeps his voice level even as he drops to his knees in blood that soaks through his jeans immediately. Stab wound looks like the abdomen. He's conscious but in shock. Yes, I'll stay on the line. He presses the jacket against the wound, and the alpha makes a sound like a wounded animal. His hand comes up, fast, faster than someone losing this much blood should be able to move, and catches Minho's wrist in a grip that would shatter bone if he had the strength behind it. Easy, Minho says, the same voice he uses when Hannah wakes up from nightmares. I'm helping. I'm not going to hurt you. The Alpha's fingers loosen, fractionally. His scent spikes, aggression and pain and something underneath that Minho's Omega hindbrain wants to call pack, protect, which is insane because this man is a stranger and dangerous and probably involved in something that ends with bodies and alleys. What's your name? Minho asks, pressing harder against the wound. The jacket is already soaked through. Can you tell me your name? The Alpha's mouth opens, closes. His breathing is getting worse, more labored. Okay, that's okay. You don't have to talk. Minho adjusts his position, uses his free hand to check for other wounds. Finds 2 more, shallow cuts on the ribs, defensive wounds maybe. Help is coming. They're 5 minutes out. You're going to be fine. Do you understand? You're going to be fine. It's a lie. Minho can see the way the blood keeps coming, can hear the sirens in the distance, but they're not close enough, not fast enough. The Alpha is going to die here in this alley that smells like garbage and rain, and Minho is going to watch it happen with his jacket pressed uselessly against a wound that won't stop bleeding. But lying is what you do. Lying is how you get people through the impossible. Keep breathing, Minho says, and his voice doesn't shake, doesn't break. That's it. In and out. You're doing good. Just stay with me. The Alpha's eyes lock onto his. Something in that gaze sharpens, focuses, like Minho's voice is a lifeline in the dark. His fingers find Minho's wrist again, gentler this time, almost careful. Like he's trying to hold on to something real. You smell like, the Alpha's voice is wrecked, barely audible. Like rain. Minho doesn't know what to say to that. His scent shouldn't be readable through the suppressants, but maybe blood loss does something to Alpha senses, strips away the chemical barriers. The ambulance is 3 minutes away, he says instead. Stay awake. Can you do that for me? Stay awake. The Alpha's thumb moves against the inside of Minho's wrist, right over his pulse point. His scent shifts. Less aggression, more something Minho doesn't have a name for. Why didn't you run? He asks. I don't know, Minho admits. And it's true. He doesn't know why he's kneeling in blood in an alley at 4 a.m., why he's ruining his only jacket for a stranger who could kill him with one hand even half dead. Does it matter? Yes. The sirens are getting closer. Red and blue lights splash across the alley entrance, painting everything in urgent color. The paramedics arrive in a controlled rush. Professionals, efficient, already asking questions Minho answers while they work. They load the Alpha onto a stretcher. One of the paramedics, an older beta with kind eyes, looks at Minho's blood-soaked clothes and says, You probably saved his life. We'll need a statement. I have to go, Minho says, already backing away. I'm sorry. I have class. I can't. Wait, at least give us your name. But Minho is already running. He leaves the jacket behind, leaves the questions unanswered, leaves the Alpha's dark eyes tracking him as the ambulance doors close. He runs until his lungs burn and his legs scream, and he's 6 blocks away with blood on his jeans and the smell of rain and gunpowder still clinging to his skin. He never looks back. He never gives his name. And he never, ever lets himself think about the way the Alpha's thumb moved against his pulse point, gentle as a promise. Mr. Cho calls Minho into the office at 11:47 p.m., 3 days after the video goes viral, and Minho knows before he sits down that this conversation ends with him unemployed. The office is barely large enough for the desk and 2 chairs. Walls plastered with health code violations Mr. Cho has been ignoring for 6 years and a calendar from 2019 that nobody's bothered to replace. It smells like cigarette smoke and old kimchi, and Mr. Cho won't meet Minho's eyes. You're a good worker, Mr. Cho says, fingers drumming against the desk. He's a beta in his 60s, permanent scowl lines carved into his face, and he's never once asked Minho about the suppressant patches or why an Omega is working night shifts alone. Reliable. Quiet. Never caused problems. Minho sits with his hands folded in his lap, spine straight. But I can't keep you. Mr. Cho finally looks at him, and there's something like regret in his expression. Something like guilt. The video, Minho, there's been reporters. 3 different news outlets showed up yesterday asking about you. One of them tried to interview customers. And then, he stops, pulls open a drawer, and slides a paper across the desk. Official letterhead. Ministry of Employment and Labor. Tax audit, Mr. Cho says flatly. They're coming next week. And half my staff. He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. Minho looks at the letter without touching it. Half the staff is undocumented. The kitchen runs cash-only payments. Mr. Cho's been operating in the gray spaces of Seoul's economy for years, and everyone's known it. And nobody's cared because the diner feeds people at 3 a.m. when nowhere else is open and doesn't ask questions when workers show up with fake IDs. But viral videos bring attention. Attention brings scrutiny. And scrutiny kills businesses like this. I understand, Minho says, and his voice comes out level, professional. Like his entire life isn't fracturing beneath his feet. 2 weeks severance. Mr. Cho pulls out an envelope already prepared. It's not much. I wish I could. It's fine. Minho takes the envelope, doesn't count it. His fingers are steady even though his omega hindbrain is screaming about territory loss, security gone, danger approaching. When do you need me to finish? Tonight. Mr. Cho's jaw tightens. I'm sorry, but the reporters, if they come back and you're here. I understand, Minho says again. He stands, slides the envelope into his jacket pocket. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Cho. Minho. The older man's voice stops him at the door. Whatever you did in that video, the way you stayed calm, that's a good quality. You'll land on your feet. Minho doesn't respond. He just nods once and steps back into the diner's fluorescent brightness. The other workers are carefully not looking at him. Ji-young, the line cook, has her head down over the grill. Seo-jun, who works the register during day shifts, is suddenly very interested in wiping down already clean tables. They know. Of course they know. In a place this small, sound travels through walls like water through paper. Minho collects his things from the break room locker. An extra shirt, his name tag that he won't need anymore, the emergency suppressants he keeps on hand. His reflection stares back at him from the scratched mirror. Dark circles under his eyes, suppressant patches visible above his collar. Face that 2.4 million people can now recognize. He looks tired. He looks breakable. He looks exactly like what he is. An omega with no pack, no bond, no safety net, and now no job. The walk home takes 40 minutes. Minho counts his steps because counting keeps the panic at bay, keeps his scent from spiking through the suppressants. 7,234 steps from the diner to his apartment building. Past convenience stores closing for the night and drunk salarymen stumbling toward taxis and street vendors packing up their carts. Seoul at midnight is a different creature than Seoul during the day. Neon bright and sharp-edged, full of people living in the margins. Minho has always belonged here, in the spaces between daylight and legitimacy. But tonight the city feels hostile. Every alpha he passes makes his shoulders tense. Every camera, security feeds, phone cameras, the ever-present potential of being recognized, feels like a threat. The apartment building's elevator is broken again. Minho takes the stairs to the 4th floor, legs burning by the 3rd landing, and finds the notice taped to his door before he even gets his keys out. Pink paper. Official seal. Final notice of eviction. He peels it off carefully, folds it, adds it to the collection in his pocket next to the severance envelope. The door lock sticks, it always does, needs WD-40 he can't afford. And then he's inside, back against the closed door, breathing in the familiar smell of home. Hannah is asleep on the couch, laptop still open beside her, screensaver painting her face in blue light. She's been researching something. Minho can see multiple browser tabs open, medical terminology he doesn't want to decode right now. Her medication bottles are lined up on the coffee table like chess pieces. For prescriptions. 2 of them need refills next week. Minho slides down the door until he's sitting on the floor. He pulls out the severance envelope with hands that finally start to shake. 800,000 Korean wons. The rent notice in his other pocket demands 1,200,000 Korean wons in 14 days, or they're out. Hannah's prescriptions will cost another 320,000 Korean wons. His own suppressants are 80,000 Korean wons. Utilities, food, the physical therapy sessions that keep Hannah mobile. The math doesn't work. It hasn't worked in months, if he's honest. He's been juggling payments, deciding which bill can be late, which medication Hannah can skip for a few days, which meal he can sacrifice. But there's juggling and then there's free fall, and Minho just crossed that line. His phone buzzes. Text message from an unknown number. Saw your video. You single? My place in Gangnam. Can treat you right. Minho deletes it without responding. 3 more messages come in before he can put the phone down. All alphas. All variations on the same theme. He turns the phone off. In the kitchen, the stack of medical bills sits where he left it this morning. The refrigerator hums with its usual dyeing machine wheeze. Through the thin walls, he can hear the neighbors arguing in muffled Korean. The same fight they have every Tuesday about money or mother-in-laws or whatever it is that makes people's voices go sharp and desperate. Minho sits on his apartment floor with 800,000 Korean wons that won't save them and a rent notice that will make them homeless and a viral video that painted a target on his back. The walls aren't just closing in anymore. They're already pressed against his skin, and he can't breathe, and there's nowhere left to run. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers and tell me where you're watching from. The black car appears on the fourth day after Minho loses his job, parked outside his apartment building like a threat wrapped in luxury. Minho sees it from the fourth-floor window where he's been standing for 20 minutes, staring at nothing, doing the math that doesn't work no matter how many times he recalculates. The car is sleek and expensive, German make, tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that doesn't belong in this neighborhood where rust and desperation are the primary aesthetics. Someone steps out. The man is tall, immaculate in a charcoal suit that probably costs more than 3 months of Minho's rent. Even from 4 floors up, Minho can see the precise way he moves, controlled, deliberate, like every gesture has been calculated for maximum efficiency. Dark hair swept back. Posture that speaks of violence carefully leashed. The man looks up. Their eyes meet through the window, and Minho's suppressants flare hot against his skin. His phone rings 30 seconds later. Unknown number. Minho stares at it for 3 rings before answering. Yes. 4th floor, apartment 403. The voice is low, measured, with an accent that speaks of money and Gangnam private schools. I'd like to speak with you if you have a moment. Who is this? Someone who saw your video. A pause. Someone who has a job offer. Minho's fingers tighten around the phone. I'm not interested. 5 minutes of your time. That's all I'm asking. The voice remains perfectly level. I'll wait outside. Your choice whether to come down. The line goes dead. Minho stands in his apartment for 2 full minutes, weighing options he doesn't have. The rent notice is still on the counter. Hannah's prescription bottles are still lined up like accusations. The severance money is already half gone. He paid the electricity bill yesterday to keep the lights on for another month. He goes downstairs. The man is waiting by the car, hands in his pockets, expression neutral. Up close, he's younger than Minho expected. Maybe late 20s, early 30s at most. But there's something old in his eyes, something that's seen too much and calculated exactly how to survive it. And the smell. Minho's suppressants are working overtime, but even through the chemical barrier, he can sense what this man is. Alpha. Powerful. Dangerous in the way that apex predators are dangerous, not through aggression but through absolute certainty of dominance. Lee Minho. It's not a question. Minho stops 3 meters away, far enough that the alpha's presence doesn't press against his skin like humidity. You have 5 minutes. The man reaches into his jacket, slowly, telegraphing the movement, and pulls out a business card. He closes the distance between them in 2 smooth steps and extends it. The card is heavy stock, matte black with silver embossing. A moon design curves across the top. Below it 2 words, Wholesome. Fine dining. Kong Tae-jun, the man says. I own a restaurant in Cheongdam-dong. I'm told you need work. Minho doesn't take the card. You're told wrong. Are you employed currently? That's none of your business. You were fired 3 days ago from the Itaewon diner. Tae-jun's voice remains perfectly calm, stating facts without judgment. The video made you a liability. Mr. Cho couldn't afford the attention. Minho's scent spikes, anger and fear mixed together, and his suppressants burn trying to contain it. Are you having me followed? I made inquiries. Tae-jun still holds the card out between them. You handled a dangerous situation with exceptional composure. That's a rare quality. I'm told you don't panic. So you hunted me down to offer me a job? Minho's laugh is sharp, humorless. What kind of restaurant owner does that? The kind who recognizes talent when he sees it. Tae-jun's eyes, dark, intense, unreadable, stay locked on Minho's face. The kind who pays well for discretion and competence. There's something underneath those words, some weight that Minho can't decode. This close, he can see details. The precise knot of Tae-jun's tie, the expensive watch on his wrist, the faint scar along his jawline that disappears into his collar. The way his posture is relaxed, but his muscles are coiled, like he's ready to move in any direction at any moment. This man is not just a restaurant owner. I'm not interested, Minho says again, putting every ounce of conviction into the words. Whatever you're offering, whatever you want, no. Tae-jun's expression doesn't change. He lowers the card, but doesn't put it away. May I ask why? Because I don't know you. Because this, Minho gestures at the car, the suit, the entire situation, is not normal. Restaurant owners don't track down viral video subjects and show up at their apartments. So whatever this is really about, I want no part of it. For the first time, something flickers in Taejun's eyes. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. You're right to be cautious, he says quietly. Especially given what you are. Minho goes very still. Excuse me? Your suppressants are good quality, but not perfect. Taejun's voice drops lower, private. I can smell what you're hiding, Lee Minho SSI. And I'm telling you that at Woolsome, you'd be safe. Protected. No questions asked about designation or documentation, or why an Omega is working alone. The words should sound like a threat. Instead, they sound like a promise. I don't need protection, Minho says, but his voice wavers. I need to be left alone. And I'm leaving. Taejun steps back, restoring the distance between them. He sets the business card on the hood of the car, right where Minho would have to walk past it to return to the building. The offer stands. Call when you're ready. I won't be. Perhaps. Taejun moves toward the driver's side door, movements fluid and controlled. But if you change your mind, the starting salary is 4.5 million Korean wons monthly. Housing assistance available if needed. Health insurance that covers family members. Minho's breath catches. For 0.5 million Korean wons. That's 3 times what he was making at the diner. That's Hannah's prescriptions and rent and food and maybe, impossibly, some savings. Taejun opens the car door, pauses. You saved my life once, he says, so quietly Minho almost doesn't hear it. 5 years ago. In an alley in Gangnam. You pressed your jacket against a stab wound and told me I was going to be fine. And you never gave your name. Minho's world tilts sideways. The rain. The blood. The dying alpha whose thumb moved against his pulse point like a promise. I've been looking for you, Taejun continues, still not looking at him. 5 years of searching. And then a video of a robbery goes viral, and there you are, same voice, same composure, same scent underneath the suppressants. So no, Lee Minho SSI, this isn't about the video. This is about paying a debt. He slides into the car. When you're ready, he says through the open window. Not before. The engine purrs to life. The car pulls away from the curb, smooth and silent, and disappears around the corner. Minho stands on the sidewalk for a long time after, staring at the business card on the empty space where the car was parked. The moon emblem catches the streetlight, silver against black. His hands are shaking when he finally picks it up. The pharmacy technician's voice is professionally sympathetic when she delivers the number, but sympathy doesn't pay bills. 3.2 million Korean wons for the 3-month supply, she says, reading from her computer screen. The immunosuppressants are the expensive part. Korean won 2.1 million for that one alone. Insurance should cover 60%, but you'd mentioned your coverage lapsed. Minho stands at the counter with Hannah beside him, her hand gripping his jacket sleeve. Yes, he says. His voice comes out steady, even though his brain is doing math that ends in catastrophe no matter how he approaches it. How much for 1 month instead? The technician clicks through screens. We can split it, but the per unit cost is higher. 1 month would be 1.3 million Korean wons. 1.3 million Korean wons. Minho has 400,000 Korean wons in his account. The severance money is already spent on rent and utilities and the food that's kept them fed for the past 4 days. And if Minho stops, recalculates. What if we only fill the immunosuppressant? Skip the others for now. Appa, Hannah says quietly. A warning. The technician's expression shifts to concern. I wouldn't recommend that. The immunosuppressant needs the other medications to work properly. Without them, you're risking rejection episodes, and those require hospitalization. Which costs more than the prescriptions, Minho finishes. I understand. We can hold the prescription for 7 days if you need time to. We'll take that option. Thank you. Minho guides Hannah out of the pharmacy before the technician can offer more sympathy or solutions that aren't actually solutions. The late afternoon sun hits them as they step onto the street, and Hannah is already pulling away from him, anger written in the rigid line of her spine. Don't, she says before he can speak. Don't tell me it's going to be fine. Hannah, I heard you asking about skipping medications. She stops on the sidewalk, forces him to face her. At 14, she's already as tall as his shoulder, and the surgery scars on her neck are visible above her collar. I'm not stupid, Appa. I know what that means. Minho's chest tightens. We have 7 days. I'll figure something out. How? Her voice cracks. You don't have a job. We're 3 weeks from eviction. And now you're going to what? Sell your suppressants? Take out a loan from one of those predatory lenders. I won't let you skip your medications. And I won't let you destroy yourself trying to pay for them. Hannah's eyes are bright with tears she's too stubborn to let fall. This is my fault. If you didn't have to. Stop. Minho catches her shoulders, gentle but firm. None of this is your fault. Do you understand me? None of it. They stand there on the crowded Gangnam sidewalk, two people trying not to drown while the city flows around them like water around stones. Minho can feel strangers' eyes on them, an Omega and a teenager, both too thin, both exhausted. He pulls Hannah into a hug before anyone can look too closely, before any alpha can decide that an unbonded Omega is worth approaching. I'll figure it out, he says into her hair. I promise. He doesn't know how he's going to keep that promise. The business card has been living in Minho's jacket pocket for 4 days, edges already softening from being touched too many times. He takes it out that night after Hannah falls asleep, sits at the kitchen table under the flickering light, and stares at it like it might spontaneously combust. Wholesome. Fine dining. Below the name, a phone number embossed in silver. For 0.5 million Korean wons monthly. Housing assistance. Health insurance that covers family members. Minho sets the card on the table. Picks it up. Sets it down again. This is not what independence looks like. This is not the life he's spent 5 years building. The carefully constructed walls that keep alphas out and safety in. Accepting help from Kang Tae-jun means accepting something more complicated than a job. It means acknowledging the debt between them. The night in the alley that Minho has tried so hard to forget. It means letting someone see him. Really see him. Omega and desperate, and 1 bad week away from complete collapse. His phone sits next to the card. The clock on the microwave reads 2:17 a.m. Minho stares at both for 3 hours. At 5:23 a.m., when the sky is just starting to lighten and his eyes are burning from exhaustion, he picks up the phone. The number rings 4 times. Minho is preparing to leave a voicemail, already composing the words in his head, formal and distant, when the line connects. Lee Minho SSI. Taejun's voice is alert, no trace of sleep. I wasn't expecting to hear from you. Minho's carefully prepared speech evaporates. You said the job offer stands. It does. And the health insurance, you said it covers family members? A pause. Minho can hear something in the background. Traffic, maybe, or voices. Taejun isn't home. At 5:23 a.m., he isn't home. It covers immediate family, yes. Parents, siblings, children. Full coverage, no pre-existing condition exclusions. Minho closes his eyes. My sister needs expensive medications. Immunosuppressants. Her insurance lapsed when He stops, forces himself to continue. The prescriptions cost 3.2 million Korean wons for 3 months. I can't pay that. I need the insurance active immediately, not after a probation period. Done. I haven't. You don't even know what I'm agreeing to. You're agreeing to work at Wholesome, Taejun says, voice calm and matter of fact. Everything else we discuss later. The insurance activates today. I'll have my assistant send you the policy information within the hour. It's too easy. Too simple. Minho's Omega instincts are screaming that there's a catch, that alphas don't give without taking, that debt compounds into ownership if you're not careful. Why are you doing this? Minho asks. And don't tell me it's about the alley. 5 years is a long time to carry a debt. Is it? Taejun's voice drops lower. You saved my life. You asked nothing in return. Not my name, not money, not even acknowledgement. Do you know how rare that is, Minho SSI? Someone who gives without expecting to take. Minho doesn't have an answer for that. The job is real, Taejun continues. The pay is real. The insurance is real. If you choose to believe there's more to it, a pause. You wouldn't be wrong. But the choice is still yours. Take the job or don't. Either way, your sister gets her medications. That's not, I can't accept that without. You can and you will. The pharmacy you were at yesterday, Han Medical, yes? I'll have the prescriptions filled and delivered by noon. Consider it a signing bonus. Minho's grip on the phone tightens. You're making it very difficult to say no. That's the idea. There's something in Taejun's voice that might be amusement. When can you start? The kitchen is still dark except for the single light above the table. Through the window, Minho can see Seoul waking up. Lights clicking on in other apartments, early risers heading to subway stations. The same city that's been crushing him for 5 years, indifferent to Omega struggling to survive. He thinks about Hannah asleep in the other room. About the medication bottles lined up empty. About the choices that aren't really choices when the alternative is watching your sister suffer. Monday, Minho says. His voice doesn't shake. I'll start Monday. I'll send a car at 4 p.m. Woolsome opens for dinner service at 6. I can take the subway. The car is non-negotiable. Taejun's voice is firm. You work for me now, Minho SSI. That means you're under my protection, which means you don't travel alone after dark unless absolutely necessary. Protection. The word lands heavy between them. Okay, Minho says, because he's too tired to argue, because he just agreed to let an alpha crime lord employ him. Monday at 4. Welcome to Woolsome, Taejun says and disconnects. Minho sits in his kitchen as dawn breaks over Seoul, holding a phone that suddenly weighs 1,000 pounds. He's made his choice. Now he has to live with it. The car that picks up Minho on Monday at 4 p.m. is the same black sedan from before, but this time a driver emerges. A beta woman in her 40s with efficient movements and a professional smile. Lee Minho SSI? She asks. I'm Park Soo-jin. I'll be your regular driver for evening shifts. Minho hesitates on the sidewalk, backpack slung over one shoulder, wearing the only dress shirt he owns that doesn't have a stain. Regular driver seems excessive for a server. Mr. Kang's orders. Soo-jin opens the back door. He's particular about his staff's safety. The drive from Itaewon to Cheongdam-dong takes 30 minutes through traffic that costs more in time than money. Minho watches Seoul transform through the window, from his neighborhood's crumbling infrastructure and crowded streets to the gleaming towers and luxury boutiques of Gangnam. The cars get newer. The pedestrians get better dressed. Everything starts to smell like money. Woolsome sits on a quiet street corner, understated in the way that only truly expensive things can be. No flashy signage. Just a simple wooden door with a silver moon emblem and a small plaque. The building is traditional Hanok architecture wrapped around modern glass, old and new coexisting in careful balance. Staff entrance is in the back, Soo-jin says, pulling into a discreet side alley. Mr. Kong asked me to bring you through the front today. He wants to introduce you properly. Minho's suppressants itch against his skin. That's not necessary. With respect, Minho SSI, very little Mr. Kong does is strictly necessary. He does it anyway. The front entrance opens into a space that makes Minho's diner look like a different planet. The lighting is warm and low, coming from paper lanterns that cast soft shadows across dark wood tables and cream-colored walls. The air smells like jasmine and expensive alcohol. Everything is clean, not the industrial bleach clean of the diner, but the kind of clean that costs money to maintain. The kind where someone polishes the glassware until it gleams and folds napkins into perfect triangles. There are 12 tables. Minho counts them automatically. 12 tables, 48 seats maximum, but the spacing is generous enough that it feels intimate rather than crowded. The kitchen is visible through a glass partition, all stainless steel and organized chaos, nothing like Mr. Cho's grease-stained operation. A woman in a crisp white shirt and black apron approaches. She's an alpha. Minho can tell by the way she moves, confident and direct, probably early 30s, with her hair pulled back in a severe bun. You must be Lee Minho. Her voice is professional but not unkind. I'm Young Min-ji, front of house manager. Mr. Kong said you'd be starting today. Yes. Minho bows precisely. Thank you for having me. Your experience is in diners, correct? 24-hour service in Itaewon. 3 years. Minji's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in her eyes. Assessment, maybe. This will be different. Our clientele expects a certain level of discretion. We serve politicians, celebrities, businessmen who value privacy above almost everything. You don't gossip about who you see here. You don't take photos. You don't acknowledge regulars in public if you see them elsewhere. Understood. Understood. Good. Minji pulls out a tablet, already bringing up what looks like a training schedule. We'll start you on prep work and side duties for the first week. Learn the menu, learn the wine list, observe the flow. If you do well, you'll move to serving by week 2. We run a tight operation here. Mr. Kong doesn't tolerate sloppiness. The way she says Mr. Kong carries weight. Not quite fear, but definitely respect edged with caution. I noticed you're an Omega, Minji continues, voice dropping lower. The suppressants are good quality, but in case you were worried, we have 3 Omegas on staff, 2 Betas, and 4 Alphas including myself. Mr. Kong has a zero-tolerance policy for designation-based harassment. Anyone makes you uncomfortable, you report it immediately. To me or to him directly. Minho nods slowly. Has that been a problem before? Once. Minji's smile is sharp. The alpha in question no longer works here. or anywhere in Seoul's restaurant industry, from what I hear. There's a story there, but Minho doesn't ask. The kitchen staff is preparing for dinner service when Minji walks him through. The head chef, a beta man named Kim Jae-sung who looks like he hasn't slept in 3 days, barely glances at Minho before rattling off instructions about plate presentation and temperature requirements. The sous chef, an Omega woman named Lee Yuna, is more welcoming, showing Minho where supplies are kept and explaining the evening's menu in rapid-fire detail. Tasting menu tonight, Yuna says, pulling out perfectly organized mise en place containers. 8 courses. Wine pairings optional, but most tables take them. The second course has pine nuts, always confirm allergies. Third course can be modified for vegetarian, but needs 20 minutes notice. Questions? Not yet, Minho says, trying to commit everything to memory. You'll do fine. Minji wouldn't have hired you if she didn't think you could handle it. Yuna pauses, lowers her voice. Word of advice? Don't be intimidated by Mr. Kong. He looks scary, but he's fair. More fair than most alphas I've worked for. He's here often? Every night during service. Sometimes he stays in his office upstairs, sometimes he works the floor. He likes to know what's happening in his restaurant. Minho files that information away, unsure how he feels about it. Dinner service starts at 6. By 6:15, every table is full, and Minho understands immediately why wine costs more than his rent. The clientele is exactly what Minji described. Older men in expensive suits, women with jewelry that catches the light, couples who speak in hushed tones about things Minho doesn't recognize. Everyone moves with the careful precision of people who have money and power and know exactly how to wield both. He spends the first hour shadowing another server, a beta named Park Jin-woo who's been at Woolsome for 2 years. Jin-woo moves through the tables like water, anticipating needs before guests voice them, pouring wine at exactly the right moment, clearing plates with practiced invisibility. The trick, Jin-woo murmurs as they pass through the kitchen, is to be present but not noticed. They want perfect service, but they don't want to see the work. Minho watches, learns, stays quiet. Taejun appears at 7:30. He doesn't announce himself, doesn't make an entrance. One moment the floor is just Minji and the servers, and the next Taejun is there, standing near the host's stand in another immaculate suit, scanning the room with those dark, unreadable eyes. The atmosphere shifts immediately. The staff doesn't stop working. If anything, they become more efficient, more precise. But there's a new tension in their movements, a hyper-awareness of his presence. Minji straightens her posture. Yuna calls orders from the kitchen with extra clarity. Even the guests seem to sense something, conversations dropping in volume. Taejun's gaze finds Minho across the room. Their eyes meet for 3 seconds, long enough for Minho's suppressants to flare hot, long enough for his hindbrain to register alpha, powerful, dangerous. And then Taejun looks away, attention shifting to a table near the window. He doesn't approach Minho, doesn't speak to him, just watches from the periphery as Minho shadows Jin-woo through the rest of service. But Minho can feel that gaze throughout the night, tracking him as he learns to open wine bottles without fumbling, observing as he clears plates and refills water glasses. Present but not intrusive, exactly like Jin-woo described their service style. It should feel threatening. Instead, it feels like being seen, and Minho doesn't know what to do with that. At one point, an alpha at table 7, businessman, expensive watch, too much cologne, lets his gaze linger on Minho as he pours water. You're new, the man says, voice carrying implication. What's your name, sweetheart? Minho opens his mouth to respond, but Jin-woo is already there, smoothly intercepting. Our new team member is still training, sir. Is there something I can help you with? The alpha's eyes narrow. I was just being friendly. Of course. Jin-woo's smile is professional and cold. The sommelier will be by shortly with your next pairing. They move away and Jin-woo murmurs. Don't engage with that type. Let senior staff handle it. Noted, Minho says. He glances toward where Taejun was standing and finds him gone. But through the glass partition, he can see him in the kitchen, speaking quietly with Jae-sung. Whatever he's saying makes the head chef nod quickly, deferentially. Service ends at 11 p.m. The last guests leave at 11:47, and the staff begins the closing routine. Clearing tables, resetting for tomorrow, counting inventory. Minho works alongside Yuna in the kitchen, learning how they organize prep for the next day. Taejun reappears near midnight. Minho is wiping down counters when he senses the shift in air pressure that means an alpha has entered the space. He looks up, finds Taejun leaning against the doorframe, jacket off and shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. That's when Minho sees them. Bruises. Dark purple and yellow-green, spreading across Taejun's knuckles like watercolor stains. Fresh enough that they're still swollen, old enough that they've started to fade. The kind of bruises you get from hitting something. Hard. Repeatedly. Good first night? Taejun asks, voice casual. Minho drags his gaze away from those hands. Yes. Thank you. Minji says you're a quick study. I'm motivated. I noticed. Taejun's expression doesn't change, but something in his eyes softens fractionally. Sujin will drive you home. Same time tomorrow. Same time, Minho confirms. Taejun nods once and disappears back into the dining room. Minho stares at the empty doorway for a long moment, then returns to wiping counters. He doesn't ask about the bruises. He doesn't ask what kind of restaurant owner needs to hit things hard enough to damage their own hands. He just files it away with all the other observations he's collecting about Kang Taejun. The way other alphas give him space, the way the staff respects him with an edge of wariness, the way he watches Minho like he's trying to solve an equation. The car ride home is quiet. Minho counts the streetlights and tries not to think about how easily he's slipping into this new life, how the weight of Taejun's attention feels less threatening than it should. How those bruised knuckles look both dangerous and strangely, inexplicably careful. It becomes a routine on Thursday nights. Minho has been at Woolsome for 3 weeks when he notices the pattern. Thursday is inventory night. The night when the weekend deliveries need to be prepped and organized, when the walk-in freezer gets reorganized, when someone needs to stay late and make sure everything is ready for Friday's rush. Usually it's Yuna or Jae-sung, but they both have families, early mornings, lives that exist outside the restaurant's walls. Minho volunteers. He tells himself it's practical. The extra hours mean extra pay, and Hannah's medication costs don't stop just because he has a better job now. He tells himself it's easier to work when the kitchen is quiet, when there's no service pressure, when he can move through tasks at his own pace. He doesn't let himself examine why he's not surprised. The first Thursday he stays late, when Taejun appears in the kitchen at 12:47 a.m. with his jacket off and his tie loosened. You're still here, Taejun says. Not a question. Minho looks up from the inventory clipboard. Thursday prep. Someone needs to do it. Jae-sung usually handles this. Jae-sung has a 6-year-old daughter who needs him home before 1 a.m. Minho returns his attention to counting sauce containers. I don't. Taejun is quiet for a moment. Then, I'll be in the office if you need anything. Second floor, last door on the right. He disappears up the back stairs, and Minho continues working in the silence of an empty restaurant. An hour later, Minho is elbow-deep in reorganizing the walk-in when he hears footsteps behind him. He turns to find Taejun standing in the doorway, holding 2 cups of tea. Break, Taejun says, extending 1 cup. You've been in the cold for 40 minutes. Minho's fingers are numb. He hadn't noticed. I'm almost done. The inventory will still be here in 10 minutes. Taejun doesn't lower the cup. Your health is more important than my freezer organization. It's the casual certainty in those words. Your health is more important. That makes Minho's suppressants flare warm. He takes the tea, careful not to let their fingers touch, and follows Taejun out into the kitchen's ambient warmth. They sit at the prep station. Taejun on one side, Minho on the other, 2 meters of stainless steel between them. The tea is chrysanthemum, slightly sweet, exactly the right temperature. Minho wraps his hands around the cup and lets the heat seep back into his fingers. You don't have to stay late, Taejun says after a long silence. The inventory can wait until morning. I don't mind. That's not what I asked. Minho looks up. Taejun is watching him with that steady, unreadable gaze, and for once Minho doesn't look away. I work better alone, he says honestly. When the kitchen is empty. When there's no, he stops, recalibrates. I like the quiet. Something shifts in Taejun's expression. Understanding, maybe. So do I. They finish their tea in silence. Taejun takes both cups when they're done, rinses them in the sink with movements that suggest familiarity with the space. Not just an owner who visits occasionally, but someone who knows where everything lives. I'll be upstairs, he says. Working on quarterly reports. Come get me if you need help with anything heavy. I can manage. I know you can. Taejun's eyes hold his for a beat too long. But you don't have to. He leaves before Minho can respond. The next Thursday, Taejun appears at 1:15 a.m. with tea and a small plate of yagua that someone must have brought in from a nearby bakery. The Thursday after that, he stays in the kitchen instead of going upstairs, working through paperwork at the corner prep station while Minho counts inventory and reorganizes shelves. They don't talk much. Sometimes Taejun asks a question about supply orders or menu planning. Sometimes Minho mentions something that needs repair, a loose handle on the walk-in door, a temperamental burner on Station 3. But mostly they exist in companionable silence, the kind that doesn't demand conversation to fill space. Minho discovers that Taejun is left-handed, that he has a habit of rolling his neck when he's been staring at spreadsheets too long, that his knuckles are always bruised, sometimes fresh and swollen, sometimes faded to yellow-green, but never completely healed. Thursday nights seem to catch them in the middle stages, a week after whatever causes the damage. Minho doesn't ask about the bruises. Taejun doesn't ask why an Omega is working alone in the middle of the night instead of home, where it's safe. They've built their rhythm on things left unsaid. The first time Minho doesn't flinch happens on a Thursday in his 5th week. He's reaching for a container on the top shelf of the dry storage, standing on his toes, fingers just brushing the edge, when Taejun appears beside him and retrieves it in one smooth motion. Close enough that Minho can smell him through the suppressants, that cedar and rain scent that all alphas have but somehow distinctly Taejun. Close enough that Minho's hindbrain should be screaming danger, retreat, protect. Instead, Minho just takes the container and says, "Thank you." Taejun goes very still. "You didn't," he stops. Starts again. "You're not afraid of me." It's not a question, but Minho answers anyway. "Should I be? Most Omegas are. When they find out what I am. A restaurant owner?" Taejun's laugh is quiet, humorless. Among other things. Minho sets the container on the prep counter, keeps his movements deliberate and calm. "I know you're not just a restaurant owner," he says. "The bruises on your knuckles. The way other alphas treat you. Not just respect, but fear. The security system here is more sophisticated than most banks. The staff doesn't ask questions about late deliveries or why certain VIP guests get private rooms with soundproofing. And yet you're still here. You offered me a job when I had nothing. You paid for my sister's medications before I'd worked a single shift. You've never once touched me without permission or used your alpha voice or made me feel like being an Omega makes me lesser." Minho meets Taejun's gaze directly. "Whatever else you are, you've been nothing but fair to me. So no, I'm not afraid." The silence that follows is heavy with things neither of them know how to say. "You should be more careful," Taejun says finally, voice low. "Trusting people like me." "People like you?" "Dangerous people." Minho thinks about the alley 5 years ago. About pressing his jacket against a stranger's wound and staying when every instinct told him to run. About how this same alpha tracked him down not to collect a debt, but to pay one. "I think," Minho says carefully, "that you're less dangerous than you want people to believe." Taejun's expression does something complicated. "Don't mistake control for safety," Minho SSI. "I've hurt people. I'll hurt more before this life is done. Have you ever hurt someone who didn't deserve it?" The question hangs between them. "No," Taejun says after a long moment. "But the definition of deserve is subjective. So is danger." They're standing closer than Minho realized. Close enough that he can see the faint scar on Taejun's jawline, the one that disappears into his collar. Close enough that if Taejun moved his hand 6 inches, he could touch Minho's wrist, could find the pulse point that races despite Minho's outward calm. But Taejun doesn't move. He just stands there, contained and careful, and Minho understands with sudden clarity that this is what Taejun always does. Maintains distance. Telegraphs his movements. Gives Minho space to retreat if he needs it. "Your tea is getting cold," Minho says, because the moment is becoming too much, too heavy with implication. Taejun blinks, steps back. "Right. Yes." He returns to his paperwork, and Minho returns to inventory, and the spell breaks like morning fog. But something has shifted. The next Thursday, when Taejun brings tea, his fingers brush Minho's as he passes the cup. Just the barest contact, barely a second, but Minho doesn't pull away. Just lets it happen, lets his skin register the warmth of Taejun's hand before the moment passes. The Thursday after that, Taejun asks, "How's your sister?" "Her medication's working well." "Yes. The new prescription is better than the old one. Fewer side effects." Minho pauses. "Thank you for asking. I'm invested," Taejun says simply. "In her well-being. In yours." Minho doesn't know what to do with that either. The Thursdays accumulate like sediment. Quiet conversations, shared tea, the comfortable silence of two people learning each other's rhythms. Minho stops volunteering for inventory night and starts just expecting to stay late. Taejun stops pretending he has quarterly reports that can only be done at 1 a.m. on Thursdays. They both know what this is becoming. Neither of them says it out loud. On the 8th Thursday, Taejun brings apple cinnamon tea instead of chrysanthemum, and Minho realizes with a jolt that Taejun has been paying attention. That he's noticed Minho always drinks the apple cinnamon tea in the staff room during afternoon breaks. "Thank you," Minho says, cradling the cup. "You're welcome," Taejun replies. And maybe it's the late hour, or the way the kitchen light makes everything feel softer, or the fact that Minho's walls have been eroding so slowly he didn't notice until they were already half gone. But he finds himself saying, "I'm glad you found me." That night in the diner. Even though it's complicated. "I'm glad." Taejun goes very still. When he speaks, his voice is rougher than usual. "So am I." The silence that follows isn't uncomfortable. It's the smallest, most dangerous kind of trust. Sitting in an empty restaurant at 1 a.m. with an alpha who could hurt him but won't, drinking tea and existing in the same space without fear. Minho should be terrified. Instead, he feels something perilously close to safe. Before I tell you what happens next, subscribe to Starry-Eyed Lovers, and tell me where you're watching from. Minho is pouring wine at table 4 when the air in the restaurant changes. It's subtle, a shift in atmospheric pressure, a disruption in the carefully maintained equilibrium of Woolsom's dinner service. Minho feels it before he understands it, the way prey animals sense predators before they see them. His hand stutters mid-pour, and he has to concentrate to keep the wine from spilling across the white tablecloth. Minji's voice cuts through from the host's stand, professional but with an edge. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're fully booked this evening. If you'd like to make a reservation." "I'm not here to eat." The voice is smooth, cultured, achingly familiar. "I'm here to see someone. Lee Minho. I believe he works here." Minho's suppressants ignite like flash paper. He sets the wine bottle down with hands that have started to shake, excuses himself from table 4 with a bow that's more muscle memory than conscious thought, and turns toward the entrance. Ji Sung-ho stands at the host's stand in a tailored navy suit, all charm and perfect posture, smiling at Minji like they're old friends. He's exactly as Minho remembers. Handsome in that calculated way that alphas perfect when they learn their looks are weapons. Hairstyled just so. Expensive watch catching the light. 32 years old and polished like marble, with none of the rough edges that made him dangerous 3 years ago. No, that's wrong. The rough edges are still there. He's just better at hiding them now. Their eyes meet across the restaurant, and Sung-ho's smile widens. "Min-ho-ya," he says, warmth dripping from the informal address like honey laced with arsenic. "There you are. I've been so worried." Minho's scent spikes, fear bitter and sharp as scorched metal, before his suppressants slam down like a prison door. But it's too late. Several guests have looked up, noses twitching. 2 alphas at table 7 exchange glances. The Omega couple at table 2 shifts uncomfortably. Minho forces his feet to move forward, keeps his voice level. "Sung-ho Sasai, this isn't a good time, isn't it?" Sung-ho's gaze travels over Minho's server uniform, the restaurant's elegant interior, lands back on his face with something that looks like possession. "You disappeared 3 years ago. No goodbye, no explanation. I've been looking everywhere for you, and then," he laughs, soft and intimate. "There you are, in a viral video, standing so calm with a gun to your head. I knew it was you immediately." Minji is still at the host's stand, posture rigid. "Sir, if you're not a guest, I'll have to ask you to. I'm an old friend." Sung-ho doesn't look at her, doesn't break eye contact with Minho. "Just want to catch up with Minho here. Make sure he's doing well. You understand." "I'm fine," Minho says. His voice comes out too tight, too controlled. "You need to leave. But we have so much to talk about." Sung-ho takes a step forward, and Minho's body responds before his brain catches up. One step back, shoulders tensing, fight or flight response screaming through suppressants that are barely holding. "I've missed you, Minho-ya. We were good together, weren't we? Before you got those ideas in your head about leaving." The temperature in the restaurant drops 10 degrees. Minho feels him before he sees him. The shift in air pressure that means Taejun has entered the space, the way conversations falter without people knowing why. Then Taejun is there, materializing between Minho and Sung-ho like he was always meant to occupy that exact spot, and his scent rolls through the room like a storm front. Pure alpha dominance. Controlled. Precise. Absolutely lethal. "You're not welcome here," Taejun says softly. It's the quietness that makes it terrifying. No raised voice, no aggression in his posture. Just a statement of fact delivered in a tone that suggests he's killed men for less than showing up uninvited in his restaurant. Sung-ho's smile doesn't falter, but something flickers behind his eyes. Calculation. Reassessment. And you are the owner, Kang Tae-jun. Tae-jun stands perfectly still, hands loose at his sides, but Min-ho can see the tension coiled in his shoulders. You're disrupting my dinner service and harassing my employee. Leave. Now. Harassing. Sung-ho laughs, but it sounds forced. I'm having a conversation with an old friend. Surely that's not against policy. Min-ho SSI is working. You're preventing him from doing his job. Tae-jun's voice remains level, but his scent intensifies. Not aggressive enough to trigger a dominance fight, but enough to make every alpha in the restaurant go very still. I won't ask again. For a moment, the two alphas just stare at each other. Sung-ho is taller by maybe 2 centimeters, but Tae-jun has something Sung-ho doesn't, a certainty that radiates from his core like heat from a furnace. The absolute knowledge that he will win any conflict that starts here. Sung-ho must sense it too, because his smile finally cracks. Of course. I apologize for the disruption. He adjusts his cufflinks, tries to salvage his dignity. I'll be going. He takes one step toward the door, then pauses. Turns his head just enough that Min-ho can hear him, but Tae-jun can't see his lips move. I know where you live, Min-ho-ya, Sung-ho whispers. We'll continue this conversation at home. The words land like a blade between Min-ho's ribs. Then Sung-ho is gone, the door closing behind him with a soft chime, and the restaurant exhales collectively. Conversations resume in hushed tones. Silverware clinks against plates. The spell breaks, but the residue remains, tension thick enough to taste. Tae-jun doesn't move for 3 full seconds. When he finally turns to look at Min-ho, his expression is carefully, deliberately blank. Are you all right? Min-ho opens his mouth. Closes it. His hands are shaking so badly, he has to clasp them together. I'm fine. That's not what I asked. I need, Min-ho's voice cracks. He swallows, tries again. I need a minute. Please. Minji. Tae-jun doesn't raise his voice, but Minji appears instantly. Cover Min-ho's section. He's taking a break. Of course. Minji's expression is concerned but professional. Min-ho SSI, staff room is open if you need privacy. Min-ho nods, doesn't trust his voice, and walks toward the back of the restaurant on legs that feel like they're not entirely connected to his body. He makes it to the staff room, closes the door, leans against it, and focuses on breathing. In. Out. Count to 7. Don't let the panic win. His suppressants are burning. His scent glands are trying to release distress signals that the patches are barely containing. Every Omega instinct is screaming that he's been found, that the predator knows where his den is, that there's nowhere safe anymore. I know where you live. Of course Sung-ho knows. The video made Min-ho visible. The internet is forever, and obsessive alphas have resources. Sung-ho probably hired someone to track him down within days of the robbery video going viral. Has probably been watching, waiting, planning the perfect moment to reappear. The door opens quietly behind him. Min-ho spins, scent spiking again, but it's just Tae-jun, alone. Holding a glass of water and moving slowly, telegraphing every motion like he's approaching a wounded animal. Drink, Tae-jun says, extending the glass. You're in shock. Min-ho takes the water because his hands need something to hold. How did you? I asked Minji to keep everyone out. Tae-jun stays by the door, maintaining distance. That man. The alpha. Who is he? Ex-partner. The words taste like ash. From 3 years ago. The one you ran from. It's not a question. Tae-jun already knows somehow. Maybe from the way Min-ho reacted, maybe from the way Sung-ho spoke, maybe from whatever network of information a man like Tae-jun has access to. Yes, Min-ho says quietly. Did he hurt you? Min-ho drinks the water instead of answering, which is answer enough. Tae-jun's jaw tightens. His scent shifts, still controlled, but edged with something darker. Fury, maybe. Or the promise of violence carefully contained. He said he knows where you live. He does. I don't. Min-ho sets the glass down before he drops it. I don't know what to do. If he shows up at my apartment, if Hannah is there. He won't. You can't know that. I can. Tae-jun's voice is absolutely certain. Because I'm going to make sure he understands that touching you means dealing with me. And I am significantly less forgiving than you are. The possessiveness in those words should terrify Min-ho. Should trigger every warning about alphas who think ownership and protection are the same thing. But there's something in Tae-jun's expression, anger on Min-ho's behalf, not at Min-ho's choices, that makes the fear settle into something else. I don't need you to fight my battles, Minho says, because he needs to establish that boundary, needs Taejun to understand. I know you don't. Taejun's eyes are dark and serious. But you don't have to fight them alone either. Not anymore. Minho's suppressants ache. His chest hurts. Every wall he's built over 5 years is cracking, and he doesn't know how to stop it. What if he comes to the apartment? Minho asks, voice barely above a whisper. What if he? Then you call me. Taejun pulls out his phone, thumbs through to his contacts, turns the screen to show Minho. This number. Any time, day or night. If he shows up, if he contacts you, if you even see him on the street, you call me immediately. Taejun SSI. Promise me, Minho. There's no command in it, no alpha voice forcing compliance. Just a request from someone who's terrified of what might happen if Minho faces Sungho alone. Please. Minho stares at the phone number on the screen, commits it to memory. Okay, he says. I promise. Taejun relaxes fractionally. I'll have Sujin drive you home tonight. I'll arrange for security, discreet, just watching the building. You won't see them, but they'll be there. That's too much. It's not enough. Taejun's voice is rough. 5 years ago, you saved my life. Let me return the favor. The staff room feels too small suddenly, the walls pressing in. Minho can still smell Sungho's cologne, can still hear that whispered threat, can still feel the phantom touch of fingers that used to hold too tight and leave bruises hidden under clothing. I should get back to work, Minho says, because standing here with Taejun's concern burning through the air is too much to process right now. Take the rest of the night off. Jin-woo can cover. I'd rather work. Minho straightens his spine, forces his voice steady. Staying busy helps. Taejun studies him for a long moment, then nods. All right, but the moment you need a break, you take it. Understood. Understood. They return to the dining room together, and Minho finishes his shift with hands that eventually stop shaking. But he can feel Taejun's gaze tracking him throughout the night, a constant presence that's both reassuring and terrifying in its intensity. And when Sujin drives him home at midnight, Minho looks out the window and sees shadows that might be security or might be threats. And he doesn't sleep until dawn breaks over Seoul. Minho knows something is wrong the moment he opens the apartment door. The lock wasn't broken. That's what makes his stomach drop. Sungho has a key. Either the old one from 3 years ago that Minho never thought to have the landlord change, or a new one he somehow acquired. The implication sits heavy in Minho's chest. Sungho has been planning this. The apartment smells like him. That cologne, expensive, woody, suffocating, cutting through the familiar sense of home like smoke through clean air. Hannah. Minho calls out, voice sharp with sudden fear. Hannah, are you here? No answer. She's supposed to be at her friend Ji-won's house for a study session. Should be there until 8. Minho checks his phone, 6:47 p.m. He has an hour, maybe less. She's not home, a voice says from the kitchen. Calm. Familiar. Wrong. I made sure to arrive when she wouldn't be here. We need privacy for this conversation. Minho's suppressants flare so hot they burn. His hindbrain screams run, but his feet are frozen to the apartment floor, his body caught between present and past, between 24 and 19, between the man he's become and the terrified Omega who couldn't escape the first time. Sungho steps into view. He's made himself comfortable, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, leaning against the kitchen counter like he belongs here. Like the 3 years Minho spent building a life without him are irrelevant. His smile is gentle, concerned, the same expression he used to wear right before. Minho's brain skips. Won't complete that thought. Minho-ya, Sungho says softly. Don't look at me like that. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to talk. Get out. Minho's voice comes from somewhere far away, disconnected from his body. Get out of my apartment. Now. Our apartment, Sungho corrects, still so gentle. You seem to have forgotten. We lived together for 8 months. You were mine. You still are, no matter how far you run. I was never yours. Weren't you? Sungho pushes off the counter, takes 1 step forward. Minho takes 2 steps back. You came to me when you had nothing. You let me provide for you, protect you, take care of you. You wore my bite. I never consented to that bite. The words rip out of Minho's throat. You did it while I was asleep. While I was. Sure. Sungho's voice drops lower, takes on that resonance that makes Minho's Omega hindbrain light up with panic. Not quite alpha command, but close. Testing the waters. Let's not rewrite history. You wanted me. You needed me. You just got confused. Let other people put ideas in your head about independence and autonomy and all those pretty words that don't mean anything when you're an Omega alone in soul. Minho's back hits the wall. He didn't realize he'd been retreating. Didn't notice Sung-ho herding him away from the door, away from escape routes. The apartment feels smaller than it did 5 minutes ago, the walls pressing in. You broke into my home, Minho says, forcing the words out. That's illegal. I can call the police. And tell them what? That your ex-partner, who you lived with for 8 months, who has documentation of your relationship, came to talk to you. Sung-ho's smile widens. Besides, you won't call anyone. You're too scared of what they'll find out about you. The fake ID you used at that diner. Your sister's medical fraud. All those suppressants you buy under the table because you can't afford legitimate prescriptions. The fear crystallizes into something sharper. You've been watching me. I've been worried about you, Sung-ho corrects. You disappeared without a word. Left me with no way to know if you were safe, if you were taking care of yourself. What kind of alpha would I be if I didn't make sure you were okay? He takes another step forward. His scent intensifies. Deliberately, Minho realizes. Sung-ho is weaponizing his pheromones, flooding the small space with alpha dominance designed to make Omegas compliant, submissive, pliant. Minho's suppressants are struggling. He can feel his body trying to respond, biology overriding conscious thought. His knees want to buckle. His neck wants to expose. Every Omega instinct is screaming at him to submit, to make the alpha happy, to stop fighting. Don't do this, Minho whispers. Please. I'm not doing anything. Sung-ho is close now, close enough that Minho can see the gold flecks in his eyes, can smell the alpha on him beneath the cologne. I'm just helping you remember. Remember how good we were together. How safe you felt in my apartment, in my bed. How you didn't have to worry about rent or jobs or taking care of a sick sister, because I handled everything. You trapped me. I loved you. Sung-ho's hand comes up, slow, careful, and touches Minho's cheek. The contact makes Minho's skin crawl, but his body won't move away. The pheromones are too strong, his suppressants too overwhelmed. I still do. That's why I'm here. To bring you home. This is my home. This. Sung-ho glances around the tiny apartment with poorly disguised contempt. This falling apart box where you can barely afford utilities? Where your sister sleeps on a couch because you can't afford a 2-bedroom. Minho-ya, I'm offering you better. Come back to me. Let me take care of you the way you deserve. Minho's throat closes up. He can't breathe. Can't think. The kitchen walls are pressing in and Sung-ho's scent is everywhere, and his body won't obey the commands his brain is screaming. Then Sung-ho's voice drops into alpha command. Look at me. Minho's gaze snaps up involuntarily. His Omega hindbrain has seized control, overriding every defense mechanism he's built. He's shaking, pupils blown wide, suppressants failing catastrophically. There you are, Sung-ho murmurs. My good Omega. You belong with me, Minho. You've always belonged with me. All this, he gestures vaguely. This running, this pretending to be independent, it's just you being scared. But you don't have to be scared anymore. I'm here. I'll fix everything. Minho tries to speak, but his voice won't work. His body has shut down, some primal defense mechanism kicking in when fight and flight both become impossible. He's 19 again, trapped in Sung-ho's Gangnam apartment, watching the door lock from the wrong side. He's every Omega who learned too late that some alphas see protect and possess as synonyms. You're going to come with me, Sung-ho says, still using that terrible gentle voice. We're going to go back to my place, and you're going to remember why you loved me. And this time, his fingers tighten slightly on Minho's face. You're not going to run. Because if you do, I'll make sure your sister's medical fraud gets reported. I'll make sure everyone knows what you are. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. The threats slide over Minho like oil. He can hear them, can process them intellectually, but his body is somewhere else entirely. Dissociating. Shutting down. Protecting itself the only way it knows how. He doesn't hear the apartment door open. Doesn't register Hannah's voice calling out, Appa, I forgot my. Doesn't see her stop in the doorway. Doesn't see her face go white. Doesn't see her pull out her phone with shaking hands. He's just gone. Staring at nothing. Body present, but mind somewhere far away where alpha commands can't reach and pheromones can't hurt. What the? Sung-ho spins around. Who are you? His sister. Hannah's voice is shaking but furious. Get away from him. The sister. Of course. Sung-ho releases Minho, who doesn't move, doesn't blink. You're the reason he ran, aren't you? Fed him all those ideas about leaving. Well, you can visit. Once he's settled back in with me, you can. Hannah is already dialing. I'm calling the police, she says. Go ahead. I haven't done anything illegal. You broke into our apartment. I have a key. From 3 years ago. That's trespassing. Hannah's eyes dart to Minho, still frozen against the wall. Appa. Appa, can you hear me? Minho doesn't respond. Hannah's expression crumples for half a second, then hardens into something fierce. She looks down at her phone, scrolls through Minho's recent calls, finds a number that's been called repeatedly on Thursday nights. Kang Taejun. She doesn't know who that is. Doesn't know why her brother has been calling this number at 1 a.m. every week. But it's there, and the police will take 20 minutes to arrive, and Minho is somewhere else entirely and Hannah needs help now. She presses call. It rings twice. Minho SSI. The voice is male, concerned. Is everything? This isn't Minho, Hannah says, words tumbling out. I'm his sister. There's someone in our apartment. An alpha. My brother is. He's not responding. He's just standing there, and I don't know what to do, Anne. Address. The voice has gone hard, urgent. Give me your address. Now. Hannah rattles it off. Lock yourself in a room, the man says. I'm 15 minutes away. Don't engage with the alpha. Just stay safe until I get there. But Minho. I'm coming. 15 minutes. Can you do that? Hannah looks at her brother, still frozen, eyes vacant. Looks at Sung-ho, who's watching this interaction with growing unease. Yes, she says. Hurry. The line stays open. And somewhere across Seoul, a black car begins moving very, very fast. Taejun arrives in 13 minutes. Hannah hears the footsteps on the stairs, quick, controlled, purposeful. And then he's there in the doorway. Expensive suit slightly disheveled, hair falling into his eyes, breathing harder than someone who just climbed 4 flights should be. Behind him, 2 men in dark clothing take positions in the hallway, silent and efficient. Where? Taejun asks Hannah, voice low. She points to the kitchen. The alpha left 5 minutes ago. Through the window. Fire escape. Her voice cracks. Minho Appa won't talk. Won't move. I don't know what to do. Taejun's jaw tightens. He looks toward the kitchen, and something complicated crosses his face. Not anger, though there's fury there, carefully banked, but something softer. Something that looks like understanding. Stay here, he tells Hannah. I'll handle this. He approaches the kitchen the way someone approaches wounded animals. Slowly, carefully, each footstep deliberate and loud enough to announce his presence. Minho is still against the wall, eyes unfocused, suppressants burned through completely. His scent, fear and distress and omega in crisis, fills the apartment like smoke. Taejun stops at the threshold. Doesn't cross it. He lowers himself to his knees, bringing his eye level below Minho's, making himself smaller, less threatening. His hands rest loose on his thighs where Minho can see them. No sudden movements, no reaching, no claiming of space. Minho SSI, he says quietly. It's Taejun. Can you hear me? No response. Minho's gaze stays fixed on nothing. Taejun doesn't push. Doesn't use his alpha voice to force acknowledgement. Just waits, patient and still, until finally, slowly, Minho's eyes track toward him. Recognition flickers, distant and fragile. He's gone, Taejun says. The alpha who was here. He's gone. You're safe now. Minho's lips move soundlessly. What do you need? Taejun asks, and his voice is so gentle it hurts. Tell me what you need, Minho SSI, and I'll do it. The question seems to reach through the dissociation. Minho blinks once, twice, and something comes back into his eyes. Not all the way, not yet, but enough that his voice works when he finally speaks. Stay. It's barely a whisper. Just stay. Okay, Taejun says immediately. I'll stay. He doesn't move closer. Doesn't try to touch. Doesn't attempt comfort that Minho hasn't explicitly asked for. Instead, he shifts to sit against the opposite wall, legs crossed, hands visible. 3 meters of kitchen floor between them. Space. Distance. Choice. I'm not going anywhere, Taejun says. Take all the time you need. They sit like that for 17 minutes. Hannah hovers in the doorway, uncertain, until Taejun gestures her in with a slight movement of his head. She sits beside her brother, takes his hand carefully, and Minho's fingers curl around hers. The first voluntary movement he's made since she arrived. Appa, she whispers. You're okay. We're okay. Minho's breathing slowly steadies. The vacant look in his eyes gradually focuses. He's coming back, piece by piece, from wherever his mind fled to survive. When he finally looks at Taejun, really looks at him, his voice is raw. You came. You called. Of course I came. You didn't have to. Yes, Taejun interrupts gently. I did. Minho's eyes are bright with tears he's too exhausted to shed. 5 years ago. The alley. I stayed because. Because you're the kind of person who stays, Taejun finishes. Even when it's dangerous. Even when you should run. You stayed with a dying alpha you didn't know, and you didn't leave until help arrived. I didn't know what else to do. Most people would have kept walking. Taejun's expression is impossibly soft. You didn't. So now I'm returning the favor. I'm staying until you tell me to leave. However long that takes. Something breaks in Minho's chest, not shattering, but opening. Like a door he'd locked so tightly he forgot how to find the key. I'm tired, he admits. I'm so tired of being afraid. I know. Taejun's voice is steady, certain. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Not of him. Not while I'm here. And maybe it's the exhaustion, or the way Taejun keeps his distance even while promising protection, or the simple fact that he asked what do you need instead of deciding for himself. But Minho lets himself believe it. Not all alphas are predators. Some of them kneel at thresholds and wait for permission. Some of them pay their debts by refusing to leave you alone in the dark. Thank you, Minho whispers. For coming. Always, Taejun says, and means it. Always.